Building a business is something that makes money, but are you building a business? Because by definition, a business is something that you make money, you reinvest that money, and you take your profits. What does it mean to build a startup? It means that you're gonna go have this idea, which now I'm saying what it means, I'm saying what people think it means. I'm gonna have an idea, and I'm gonna get someone else to fund my gamble. How am I gonna build a business? How am I gonna take this idea that I'm asking people to invest in and actually make them money? Often people are viewing the money they take from VCs as like free cash and a success. I view it as a burden. People that I know that were hustlers, they didn't have a safety net. They had no choice but to hustle. They had no choice to do the things that they're not supposed to do, or do the things that are not good for them, or do the things that society looks down on, or so on and so forth, right? They didn't have a safety net. So people like me, I didn't have a safety net.
Assalamu alaikum. Shastri, welcome to the podcast.
Wa alaikum salam.
Well, alhamdulillah, we're really blessed to have you here. Shastri Mahadeo, is that right? Mahadeo.
You got it close enough.
Yeah, I'll do my best here. But you're a managing partner at Friday Ventures, also a co-founder and CEO of multiple other ventures. So You have a wealth of knowledge and experience, which, when you get both of those and we get the chance to sit with you, it means we're going to ask you a lot of questions. So inshallah, There'll be a lot of barakah in this dialogue, inshallah, and a lot of lessons. Inshallah. So with that, people don't just fall into these spaces that you're in. And so we'd love to learn kind of how your story kind of started. Because I'm assuming, in high school, this isn't really what you're aiming at on becoming.
I want to be a race car driver.
NASCAR, or are we talking F1?
F1. Yeah, you're too, but you can't be taller than 6'3". You have to be under 6 to be an F1 driver.
Wait, really?
Yeah, because your head is
going to be I can look into that.
Yeah, when you're like 6'3", you're like, can't do it. But also, I was poor, so we didn't have any money, so you can't do that either.
Do you have to be wealthy to be in the F1?
It's one of those things that you have to have money initially, because people function off of sponsors in building cars. But you can do things like autocross and like...
There's also like F3 too, right?
Yeah, it still requires money, right? But when you're poor, you don't have any freaking... Well, poor is relative, right? First world poor, as I like to call it. It's not technically poor. But yeah, I didn't think I was going to go into business. I had no idea. I wanted to be everything cars. That's what I was into. Car designs, car racing, building cars. I was a tech for Lexus for a year.
No way.
Lexus and Toyota. Yeah, I was a mechanic for years.
And where was this? Was this in like
New York?
What borough did you grow up in?
I grew up in Queens. So I'm originally from the Caribbeans.
Okay.
Trinidad and Tobago, if anyone know of that little island. We invented Carnival, you're welcome. We once had the world's hottest pepper, you're also welcome.
Which pepper?
The scorpion.
Scorpion.
Yeah, okay. Scorpion pepper. So I was born there. I grew up there. Until I was 9, then I had wild dreams of becoming an astronaut, becoming a doctor, all the things that, people want to become. My parents said, hey, we can't do that here, let's move. And we ended up coming to New York. And interestingly enough, I came to New York into 1996 in the 96 blizzard. And coming from an island and seeing the snow up to your freaking door is very traumatizing for a 9-year-old kid. But yeah, I grew up there, and I landed in Brooklyn. So I lived in Flatbush for a while. Then went to Jamaica, Queens, bounced around Queens. But I spent most of the times in South Jamaica, Queens, and lived in South Ocean Park and different places like that. But Queens is where I fully lived. Even when I moved out of my parents' house, I lived in LIC, so still Queens. So I'm a Queens kid through and through.
So within a few years, you've moved around a lot almost in your childhood years.
We moved a lot. I mean, we didn't have any money. We lived in shitty basement apartments. This is a Muslim podcast. I don't know if I can say
it's okay. We have a lot who have colorful language. So
okay, I'm not that colorful. I say the traditional things, but so I lived in really crappy apartments throughout the years. And when we first landed here, we were in this really bad building off of Atlantic Avenue, and there was no heat throughout the entire winter. So my parents and I had to sleep in one bed. We had to boil water on the stove to get heat for the entire apartment. And
were you a single child too? Or?
Single child, yeah. My mom had a child before me, but it died at birth. So she didn't want to really have any more after that. So technically, I have a brother that inshallah I'll meet one day. So yeah, we moved around a lot. I lived in basement apartments my entire life, and if you ever been to Queens or South Jamaica, Queens, they're shitty apartments. Mm-hmm. They're 1 bedrooms. My parents and I slept in one room. we shared, you have 2-bedroom basements, right? Really small stuff. And I didn't live in a house until I was 15, 16 years old. We didn't actually buy a house till then. And I remember very vividly our Sunday night activities were going around and walking. And again, you have to be familiar with New York City. People throw their garbage out in the street, looking for furniture that people threw out because we couldn't afford to buy furniture. Our couch was what someone threw out. A lot of our bedroom furniture was what people threw out. And I like telling people those things, not for anything other than that. A lot of people see the venture world and see all this stuff and see all these privileged kids coming up, and no one tells you their real story. You have all these influencers and all these people talking about success and building companies, and I'm like, my guy, you came from money. Calm down. Like everyone, like you're not telling people the story. You're not telling people the real where you got your head start, right? But there are people out there that really literally came from nothing, right? And my story is not unique. And also my story is not even the worst. There are people worse than me that didn't even have their parents. They came to this country in their teenage years with a couple dollars in their pocket. Luckily, my parents were very hardworking people and helped me to get where I am today, right? So credit obviously goes to them. Inshallah, Allah guides them at some point to Islam. But yeah, I started out that way and, didn't have much growing up. All the things that people essentially wanted in school, I didn't get. Couldn't afford the Nikes, couldn't afford the FUBUs, I had the flea market clothes that people bought, not the cool stuff. Now I go back to buying the cheap stuff because I don't really want to.
Kirkland signature. I'm a firm believer.
There you go. Good stuff. But yeah, I didn't think I was going to go into business. My grandmother was a business owner, like in Trinidad. She had restaurants, double shops, in case anyone know what doubles is from the islands. But I didn't think I was going to go into business. That's not my thing. I went to traditional school, had a scholarship to NYU. When I graduated, I didn't go because I wanted to be a race car driver. You can tell my brown parents probably did not like that at all. So I turned it down and decided to go to a specialty school for cars and learn how to be a mechanic, even though I was building cars even with my dad, and my dad was into all that stuff too. And got into cars a lot and started racing cars and building cars and got into a lot of trouble over the years with motorcycles and all the things that come along with that. And business is something I kind of fell into.
So, okay, I want to take a step back here because obviously I think there's a lot of assumptions that we have when people are raised in these environments that, we come in, your parents immigrated here, right? So you kind of have this American dream that a lot of people have growing up, right? Pull yourself out the bootstraps. But sometimes our environments, whether it be like a social services or whatever it may be, the options of what is possible gets less and less and less because priorities change, right? Where maybe you can't focus on your school or your academics because you need to help your family out with the local restaurant or whatever it is, right? You're just trying to get meal on the table for the next day. But you said you got into NYU. That means you're still... Did that dream ever get unreachable? Like, did you ever think, like, maybe I'm not meant to be this person that could be a doctor, could be an engineer because of your environment? Or did you still hold on to the belief that I can still be anything I want to be?
I was a very unique personality. I was always... I had a chip on my shoulder even at a young age because when I was in elementary school, I came into the school system with an accent because I had the Caribbean accent, which I can turn on and off. It's something you don't really
code switch.
Yeah, I can code switch my accent. Sometimes people hear it come out with certain words, my accent comes out. So people made fun of me a lot in school, and I couldn't afford the Nikes or the Adidas or the FUBUs, and I wore flea market things where the FUBU name used to peel off if you washed it too much, right? Or it'd crack and everyone knew it was fake.
And this is like mid-90s, right?
This is like 90s when this was like a thing, So when you're wearing the fake clothes, you get made fun of. So when I went to high school and I started like hustling, like, and I hate using the word hustle now because these VC kids don't really know what hustle means. They don't know what it is to hustle. They don't really know what real hustle coming from the slums or the cities means to be. So I had to hustle, and I had this chip on my shoulder of what I wanted to be. So when I did all these things, it was more about me doing it because I wanted to prove a point to myself that even though you told me I couldn't do this or you made fun of me, I'm going to show you. That was always my mentality.
I think there's a sense of maturity that you have here when you say chip on your shoulder, but prove to yourself.
Yeah.
Usually people have a connotation of proving them. Have you always had that mentality?
Always had the mentality, because and as I said, I have a very unique personality.
Yeah.
I'm always the person that I don't really care what people think about me around me. I don't care. It's always me self-reflecting on myself. Am I really that? Are they right? No, they can't be right. They probably, I was always had the mentality, and again, like you said, it's a very unique way of thinking of things. Which can be a bad thing too, right? I always place blame on myself before I place blame on others. So I'm not going to say that, oh man, that didn't go well because of that person. Like maybe I didn't do something right. So it comes with its negative things as well too.
No, it's very interesting in terms of like the example that you gave about hustle, and why you have a perspective about it.
Yeah.
How can you define what that means to you and the misinterpretation around it?
I think hustle in the VC world or in Silicon Valley has this connotation of, which is partly true, by any means necessary, right? Or do whatever it takes, grind, work hard, do all these different things. But majority of people that are using these words have safety nets, which is not true hustle. Again, people will disagree with me. I might get hate for it, whatever it is. Again, I don't think personally that is true hustle, because the people that I know that were hustlers, they didn't have a safety net. They had no choice but to hustle. They had no choice to do the things that they're not supposed to do, or do the things that are not good for them, or do the things that society looks down on, or so on and so forth, right? They didn't have a safety net. So people like me, I didn't have a safety net. My mom was a babysitter when we moved to this country. My dad fixed cars. He first started screen printing T-shirts. Then he became an NYPD lieutenant, and my mom's a high up at the DOT. We built ourselves. We hustled. We sacrificed. But when people in tech world talk about sacrifice, they talk about working late hours in fancy offices with pizza. Is that sacrifice?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is important. I think so much of culture is often, I need to increase my vocabulary here, but simply put, robbed, right? Yeah. The culture of like hustle originated with like hip hop culture, or a lot of these individuals who, again, to what you're saying, like your back is against the wall. You have no option. It's either this or nothing, right? Yeah. And when that culture kind of gets eroded away by privilege or those who are more blessed, and kind of gets taken away of the actual origin of that context, it takes away a form of culture and identity that those who actually weathered the storms for and put meaning to that word.
Yeah.
Now, if you had to give a new word for those who are using it from a misplaced position, what would that word be in your mind?
Good question. I haven't thought about it. I think you can say hustle or work hard. And I get what they're trying to say with hustle. I just have a sensitivity towards that word because of where I grew up.
Well, I think it's because you have blood, sweat, and tears behind that
word.
Yeah,
look, just give you an example. When I was 18 years old, I was obsessed with making money. And I won't talk about the things that I did that I can't talk about in a podcast, right?
Yeah.
FBI comes knocking my door, but
they'd come knocking either way.
They come either way. But we
last time I checked,
in the true sense, we legitimately hustled.
Yeah.
We sold things in frat parties and all the stuff that you see on movies.
Right.
We hustled. When I went into, and I was so obsessed with making money because I didn't grow up with money. And I'm telling you this because of like what I define hustle to be. Maybe it's helpful. I was like, I'm gonna make a lot of money. When I got a real estate license, I did all the things. Like I'm gonna be legit, but I'm gonna do it legit in a hustle way, in a sense. Dude, I used to go to get an upper hand. I used to go to train stations. Imagine this, and try to sell people houses. I used to literally go to people, hey, do you currently rent or own your own home? Do you know that if with the money you're putting in rent, I can help you to get into a house. I used to legit go around train stations and try to sell people's houses.
Why was train stations the spot?
Because it had the most people.
So volume.
It was a volume game for me.
Yeah.
With a suit. Can you imagine?
That's incredible.
I set up booths in flea markets to try to sell properties in Florida, land in Florida.
How old were you?
I was 18. I bought my first piece of land in Florida when I was 19 years old. I sold it a year ago to pay for some of my cars.
Alhamdulillah.
But I was buying stuff when I was younger. To me, that's hustle. Or I used to own a nightclub before I was Muslim. I have to preface.
Yeah.
I converted after I found Islam from a nightclub, which is a different story. But I owned a nightclub. You know, I actually had to sit and write a legitimate business plan, not a pitch deck, a freaking business plan, and apply for an SBA loan. You ever apply for an SBA loan?
It's lengthy.
Lengthy. I had to go and teach myself how to do a lot of things to open a nightclub. I had no idea what I was doing. I had to apply for a liquor license. I had to figure out how to do construction. I had no idea it takes $500,000 to open a nightclub or more. I had $110,000.
And I'm assuming this is, obviously before ChatGPT. This is probably not having all the resources and mentorship that you needed.
No, this was what?
As organic as you can be.
2000. What? I graduated high school 2004. This was like 2006, 2007. Oh, wow. This was early days, right? That to me is hustle. Mm-hmm. Figuring out how to do these things in uncertain environments, nothing to fall back on. That's hustle to me.
I almost think the use of the word hustle, the way it's used now, is a manner to make the unsexy feel cool.
Maybe, yeah. I mean,
can you define that?
Yeah, because like for these individuals, the characterization that we're making, right, of this group that misuses this word without the historical context or the cultural context behind that word, is that you want to make yourself feel cool, right? You are doing the mundane, boring Excel sheet for a lot of long hours. You're sacrificing family. You're doing all of this stuff. Really just working hard, which no disregard for that, right? But it sounds cooler to say, yeah, man, I'm just hustling. Yeah. That sounds cooler than like, I'm just working hard. Like, I don't have a safety net.
I think there's a difference if there, to me, there's a unique aspect of your back being against the wall.
Yes, that's what it is. So I think my problem with the hustle culture in Silicon Valley and the use of the word is that most of the people don't have their backs against the wall. They're like, I left this cushy corporate job to be a founder and go hustle. No. Yeah, your back's not against the wall. You may be working really hard, but what I define in my brain, and maybe others that came from places like I did, I think they view hustle, and I know we're diving deep into this, and we can change topic. But we view it as your back's against the wall. You don't have a choice.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I need to go into a thesaurus here and find different words that'd be more befitting.
Well, we're talking about
it's a linguistic issue.
Is it though? Because
I don't think it's linguistic.
No, I think it's a cultural issue.
Yeah,
it's a cultural.
Anyone who's really had their back against the wall, they know there's a fundamental difference between doing real work that if you don't get this done, there's real consequences.
Or like. If you have loan sharks coming after you, you have to hustle to figure out how to pay them back.
Right.
I mean, I was there. Yeah. I borrowed money from the wrong people.
Yeah.
I got to pay it back. And I got mafia guys up my neck. I got to go hustle to figure out how to pay them back because I made a stupid decision.
Right. Well, I say linguistic because it's misusing the word. Right. So.
But anyways, we went deep into that. There's going to be difference of opinion.
Right.
Which there always is. There's a gray area.
So you go through this very untraditional path, right? Of upbringing that is probably not at least what's publicized on social media and everywhere of what the average VC person's background is, right? Yeah. From what we know, at least from what I know, from my limited knowledge here. But it seems like you still held the belief that you can achieve it regardless of the upbringing or your surroundings that they were. Like you had a lot of things going against you, but you still were able to make momentum. What kind of helped you stay positive in that mindset? Because again, you are, a single child. You don't really have anyone ahead of you who've like shown you the path or anything like that, but you've always still persevered and still believed in yourself and your ability to achieve things. But a lot of people aren't really, blessed with that ability to have that mindset. What would you say to someone to have that mindset or to grow into that?
I don't know. Maybe as I think about it, and I'm thinking about it now, I always thought it was because I had no other choice, in a sense, or there was nothing for me to lose because I was already here. Anything up incremental was a benefit. So if I had $1, if I made $1.25, it's like, oh wow, I made $1.25. But what am I going to do? Lose my dollar? Who cares?
Yeah.
I'll be in the same position I am today. So for me, doing the thing, it didn't matter if I failed because I was just going to be in the same position anyways. I might as well try.
Right.
But I also think that culture, it was, and as I've thought a lot about this over the, as I transition, in my life and in things that I'm doing, I feel like it has a lot to do with my parents and also what my parents made me do. So my mom, I remember vividly, I was not allowed to watch Sesame Street when I was a kid unless I practiced my multiplication tables.
Was that helpful?
Very helpful, right? My mom put education before everything else. My mom, even though, and see my accent, even though my accent came out, even though I knew the work, she wanted me to be the best at what I did. But if I wasn't the best, it's okay, you tried. So my parents always instilled in me, it's okay if you fail, but you need to try. Because then within yourself you did your best. Maybe that's where my mentality came from. Secondly, when I was 11 years old, my mom threw me into martial arts.
What'd you do?
I did everything. I was a tournament fighter for a couple of years. I did it from 11 to 19. I did Shotokan, I did judo, I did mixed martial arts, which is all three. I did taekwondo. I did weapons, kung fu weapons.
Okay.
I did all of it. Got up to like second degree black belt. Did fight him in competition. And my sensei was very strict to the extent that I had to submit report cards. I had to write book reports. I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and do military training if I wanted to get a black belt or if I wanted to fight tournaments or anything of the sort. I had to learn and read and level up myself, right? So I think that coupled with my mom and my dad, and is that any incremental change upwards is always better.
I mean, I think I'm understanding a bit more and how you think, because in terms of not proving to others but proving it to yourself.
Yeah, because when you're fighting someone,
exactly,
you're fighting against your own pain.
Yeah. And a lot of it is the variable that you can control is you. But so I did Silat, at least that's my focus. And a lot of it is how can you control your opponent into your ideal situation? And inherently in most services, a lot of martial arts focuses on that mindset.
Or race car driving. It's all about what you control. I hate roller coasters because I can't control it. But driving in the racetrack, I'm fine because I can control it.
Yeah. And it seems like your parents always had this mindset of nurturing growth and being self-accountable and self-reflective, and not so much in the sense of comparing yourself constantly to everybody else, but really doing the best of your own ability.
Yep.
And I think that is so much foundational to everyone's growth in terms of
Islamically too, right? I mean, Allah says that if you seek dignity for anyone other than him, then he's going to disgrace you. It's like, I mean, traditionally, I mean, even Muslims in general, we see it around the world. Like Muslims are seeking dignity from everyone around them, except through their belief.
Yeah.
And look at the state we're in today.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone wants to be this influencer. Everyone wants to be cool in front of these people. I'm like, I don't really care what people think.
Yeah.
Right. I don't need dignity from anyone else. And we all have a little bit of pride with us, and I'm not negating that. Not everyone's. We all have that. It's a thing. But I mean, Islam. That's exactly what you're saying. It's part in Islam too.
It's integrated into it.
Yeah.
But oftentimes the hardest conversations are the ones that we just ignore to the point where it just disappears, right? But really that's the key that can unlock everything else.
Yeah.
So you have this early childhood, you're selling homes at train stations. That's a first, but hey, what works. Yeah. What do you have like a major turning point where you start going more of the corporate route of things, right? Like, I guess
I never went corporate, man. I mean, I where I grew up, there was this guy that lived across the street from me, real OG from Brooklyn. I mean, traditional story that you see on TV, like bullet holes everywhere, cops, everything. I mean, I've seen this guy freaking shoot someone right in front of my house, broad daylight. I mean, real OG from Brooklyn, right? Lived across the street from me, but he was a music producer. So I became really good friends with him. And interestingly enough, he was the one that kind of was other than me finding Islam through the nightclub, he was the catalyst to say, hey, I'm reading about Islam. He wasn't Muslim yet either. Story for another time. But this guy was a music producer, and I used to go with him to, different artists and, different recording sessions or different parties or things of the sort. And I was really doing the real estate so I can make money to open a performance shop. I wanted to build race cars. And then when I started going to recording sessions and artists' sessions with him, I'm like, it'd be cool to have a bar, because bar is a cash cow. Alcohol makes a lot of money. And then I can get artists to show up and make more money. So I randomly had this train of thought that I'm going to go build a bar. Over a year or so, it ended up turning into a nightclub. There's a long story behind that.
I hate when that happens. It's all the time. Mom, just hear me out. Is that what you think?
Oh man! And there's a long story behind that. But to make the long story short, I ended up building this 5,000 square foot nightclub in Queens. Had no idea what the hell I was doing. Holy shit! That was hard. One of the hardest things I've ever, if raising money from VCs and building software companies is cake. Cake.
Well, explain why. Why would you? What makes you make that statement so confidently?
You're not dealing with drunk people. No, I'm just kidding.
You're not dealing with guns.
You're not dealing with danger.
Yeah.
You don't get the SaaS deal. Cool.
Oh man, I gotta hustle now.
I've been shot at. I've had my bouncers have been shot.
Oh yeah.
I've had bullets pass my head and shoot my bouncer in the shoulder.
Wow.
I've been sued by New York State. I've had the doors in my nightclub chained because it was a shootout. I've had people stabbed.
Gosh.
I've had to pull ecstasy out of people's ass.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Like, there's nothing dangerous in selling SaaS. So it's to answer your question. It was the hard
I get it now.
It's the hard, I've gotten into fights with my bouncers that were ex-football players to prove a point. When you're 19 years old, and I had to wait till I was 21 to get a liquor license. Different story. But when you're 21 years old, 22 years old, and you're hiring people that are older than you, no one respects you, especially when you look like. And I was like really. I'm still skinny now, but I was a scrawny kid, And
but you were trained.
Yes, that's why I was confident. And I had one of my bouncers one time didn't want to listen to me, and I literally got into a fist fight with the guy. So that doesn't happen in software. That doesn't happen in the VC. So that's why I said it's the hardest thing. And again, VCs don't like hearing those stories. People don't like hearing those things, but it's the truth. It's my life. If you don't like it, is what it is.
And you're also dealing with people that are. It's one thing to dealing with people that are emotional, which is fine, but it's another thing to act with people or work with people that are emotional and then act on it, in which your life is in danger.
Especially when their thought process is compromised with poison.
And they don't have as much to lose, right? And they have because as much as you have your struggles and frustrations in that moment in time, they're probably in the equal same point. Like, they're probably one paycheck away from losing everything too, right? So everyone's at a constant state of crashing out. Like, just one accident away from like whatever.
Because everyone's coming to those environments to escape their stresses.
Exactly.
So it's hard. So I did that for a while, and I kind of lost my train of thought where we're going with the conversation. But that's maybe it's just we're gonna go where it goes.
Yeah. Welcome to the Caravan Podcast.
Yeah. We carry you, caravan wherever you go.
So you're dealing with essentially you open up what was going to be a bar, which becomes a nightclub.
Yep.
And where does that kind of take you now?
Ooh, you learn about product market fit and consumer discovery really early on, and very, very fast, because I've never really went to nightclubs, and I just thought I would open one. So what I did is this 5,000 square foot space with like 30-foot high ceilings, I'm like, people are just gonna come show up and dance, right? You build a bar, they're gonna come dance. No chairs, no seats, no nothing. People show up. I'm like, where do we sit? So I spent all this money, and you really discover that your consumer does the product market fit is like they want to sit and drink. They don't want to just go dance. So I spent more money reinventing the place. But anyway, long story short,
where are you getting all this money from? Was just that the SBA loan that you had mentioned, or
I plead the fifth.
okay,
but
got it. Carrying on.
I got investors for
Okay.
some of it. I had some of my own money. I plead the fifth on some of it, but SBA loan, real estate money, credit cards,
Just a hodgepodge
and
of
invest.
sources.
Yeah, whatever you
hodgepodge.
get it through.
Yeah, whatever you get through.
Right.
Whatever you get.
Lemonade stands. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever you can
Yeah.
get it done. So I got it done, and I did about $1 million and change my first year, and because the nightclub fit about 300 to 400 people in
Okay.
it, and we were like, we had all the top people. We had, if New Yorkers will know, back in the day, DJ Camello, Funkmaster Flex. We had all the
Funkmaster,
top
wow.
DJs.
That's cool.
Funkmaster Flex used to shout me out on the radio all the time.
What?
That's how much used to be at the club, Hot 97. All those, like, we were popping.
The first time I heard Funkmaster Flex was on Grand Theft Auto 3, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, I think
With the
so. Yeah, yeah. I was in fifth grade.
When he was hustling.
Yeah. Hey man, I'm
just joking.
I sold the 40-pack gums that you can get for your car back in the day.
That's
Anyway, I sold each piece for $1. I grew up in a small town in East Texas, so I was at that time I think the only non-white person there. And I sold each one for $1. So for $3, I made $40, 37, and then
I used to sell these the T-Mobile T900s. You guys are probably too young for that, but there was like the little texting things. Look up T-Mobile. No, sorry, the Motorola T900s. Look them up.
we'll have an image here. Het, please put it on. Thank you so much.
Motorola T900s. We used to sell those hacked.
Oh my
with like
goodness.
a limited service from Verizon.
What the
Oh,
heck?
that's
Verizon don't watch this, but that was a long time ago.
That's a lot of time. I made wands in middle school.
There you go.
So
There you go.
The Harry Potter fan club. So
Yeah.
that's a bit. Okay, so you made $1 million plus on
In
your
sales,
first
yeah.
year.
I mean, you
Okay.
don't profit from all that stuff. It was a lot
Yeah,
million in
yeah.
sales.
How many years did you do this?
2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, not too long.
So what was like that transition like? What was like the reasoning for getting out of something like this?
I found Islam.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
Oof. Yeah, I found Islam in a nightclub. So it was an interesting story. I would say partly I got out of it because I found Islam, partly because I was compelled to get out of it, and I know why. A lot of things happened in a nightclub. The first year of business was great. Things going well. Coming up against the second year, a lot of bad things started happening in the club. And my family was Hindu. So I originally was a Hindu. My dad was like a Hindu priest, which are called pundits. So I was in the line to do those things, and I never really did it. Hindus have this high belief in astrology. And when things don't go the right way, Hindus go to their pundits, the priest, to say, hey, tell me how my stars are playing into... It sounds stupid for me saying it now, but people believe this, right? My parents are still Hindu, Allah guides them. But they go and they read the stars and they see what's going on, and they tell them what they should do next. And the Quran talks about this, right? All these things. So when these bad stuff started happening to me, the pundit told me that someone was doing black magic on me in the nightclub to make the business go down. And I know Muslims today, they hear about this and think it's not real, but I mean, the entire industry, the Kabbalah, the music industry is riddled with magic. I mean, the higher ups, businesses, the politicians, musicians, all these guys, they all practice this stuff. This is the Masonic way. This is how they function. It's not conspiracy theories. This is not any of that stuff. It's real.
And especially at the time, you being a non-Muslim, you're also not guarding yourself.
I'm
from
not
a
guarding
spiritual
yourself,
level.
yeah.
So you're just going to receive all of that, right?
And I'm around music people, so I
Yeah.
know what they're doing. I hear it. They talk about it, right?
And there's so many multi-layers to music, whether it be frequency or whatever it may be in terms of, not to get hoo-ha, but like energy and all these other levels to it.
But there's even rituals. When someone dies, or like when you see checkered floors or these things happening, that's all rituals that they're doing, right? And anyways, not going into that before people start saying it's conspiracies, but magic is real.
Yeah.
Allah says it's real, and most people don't have experience with it. I have experience with it. I've seen what it can do. So anyways, he told me this is happening. I didn't believe him at first.
And was this pundit? Was this your dad? Because he
No. My dad
else you went
didn't
to?
know anything about any of this stuff. I tried to keep my parents away from my nightclub business things because it's a dirty business. You don't want your parents to be involved in all those
mixed
things.
into it.
Yeah. And my dad decided to come one night, and there was a fight that broke out, and he got hurt because he was in the wrong place. So it's a bad business. You have fights all the time.
Right.
And he was just standing in the wrong place. They pushed down the barricades outside, and he fell, and he got scratched up in the face, and he was hurt.
Yeah.
So I keep them away. But they didn't know this happened. So he told me that someone was doing this magic, and so on. And I was like, well, can you fix it? And he said yes. And he did these things that made it better, right? I got intrigued, and then again, I won't go into detail of it unless maybe it's a separate episode or session if people are interested in it. But I started getting intrigued of what he was doing, and I started doing things that helped what I was going through. Like I had a lot of cops bothering me. You see in the movies that NYPD shows up and they ask for bribes and they ask for things. I mean, that's real. It happens. They come with their hands out. I've had cops come to the front of the nightclub, and I have to go take vodka and put it in a Red Bull bottle and bring it out to them to the car so they can drink. Right.
Wow.
All these things you have to do with these cops. So, I used to get tickets all the time if I didn't treat the cops the right way. They used to write me summonses or write me things. And I asked the pundit, go into one thing, the pundit would say, hey, I can help that go away from you. Right. So he would give me these things tied in knots, and he would say, hey, tell it what you want and go to court. And wallahi, when I go to the courts, I went to court about 7 times. I never saw the judge once.
You never saw the judge once?
Case dismissed. Ticket dismissed. Because I had this thing on me.
So there's a lot of things that it sounds like are happening to you, and you enough to the point where you're like, hey, I need to find...
That wasn't the tipping point.
Okay.
A lot more of those things happened. I mean, I can tell you everything.
Well, how did you find this?
Like these rituals and trinkets.
All these things. Yeah, because
you
when you're 22, 21, and this guy's helping you do things, you're going to do it. You're stupid.
I mean, you're also young.
I was young and dumb.
And like, but is there any moment where you're like, I mean, this is like a Fairly Odd Parent type of situation, right? Where you're like, holy cow, this is working,
It is, but then he told me one time that I asked him, what the hell are you doing? He's like, well, we have to do it after 12 at midnight. After 12 midnight. And I'm like, okay. And he tells me what he uses. And I'm like, that doesn't sound cool. And he says things like, we're commanding the left hand of God. Or I have, a little bit like command the left hand of God. Or that I'm commanding these demigods, which we know as jinns, right? And I have an army of demigods, which we know is army of jinns, right? So there are little things that happened in the years that like stuck in my brain. Long story short is that, in the second or, almost third year, things kept going bad. And again, if anyone's interested in more of that Converse story, we can talk about it another time, whatever. But stuff started going really, really bad the end of the second going into the third year. And nothing this pundit was doing to help me worked. And someone got shot. The bullet flung past my ear. You can hear, I heard it, bounced off the building and shot my bouncer in the shoulder. And I'm standing right there. And it literally came so close to me. If I didn't step aside, was that okay?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
If I didn't step aside, it would have hit me in the face. And the city of New York sued me for disrupting the community and the area, and because I had stopped giving them money and stopped giving them things, and they put chains on the doors.
Is there a reason you stopped doing the bribes and vodka?
You get tired of it, again, it's one of those things that, like I always say, that something compelled me to make and now I know it's Allah compelling me to make the decisions that I was making along the way, right? And I paid a lawyer like $70,000 to go to court to try to get the nightclub back open. And he succeeded in getting the nightclub back open, but I had to shut down for a month, which, you're paying $30,000 to $40,000 in costs, which my burn, if you will, right? To the SaaS guys out there, to my burn rate was high. And for some reason, I didn't want to keep doing it. I was tired. I was exhausting. It takes a lot out of you. And I'm done with this. And I lost everything I had. I walked away from it. I closed it down. I had a lease. I broke my lease and I filed bankruptcy. And I was 23. Wow. Not many people could say they filed bankruptcy at 23 years old. And I filed for bankruptcy, and I went from making a ton of money, taking trips. I was making $1,000 a night in coat check. Wow. I was making $7,000 selling water. Saturday
That's my
nights,
business right there.
Saturday, we used to do teen parties on Thursdays. Dude, we used to make thousands of dollars selling mocktails and water. Wow. We were making sometimes $30,000 a night, 90% of which is cash. As that was the early 2000s. So I worked so my spending money every week was my coat check money. That was what I kept in my pocket. It was pure cash. $3 to check your coat, And so I went from that to not having anything in my name, anything at all. And one day I was sitting on my parents' steps and I'm like, man, what is this? Because the pundit tells you that these things that you're doing is what God allowed you to do. He didn't tell me that this was something that was wrong. And in my head, I'm like, well, if I'm doing the things that God allowed me to do, why is God putting me through this? And I was like, you know what? There is no God. God doesn't exist. And a couple of days later, remember that music producer I told you about? He had disappeared for a while. And he showed up one day. He was like, yo, what's up, man? What's going on? I heard this stuff happening to you. I was like, where you been? Like, you disappeared. He's like, yeah, I've been trying to find myself. I've been looking at this thing called Islam. I was like, man, why are you reading about terrorists? This is exactly what I said. And he's like, no, it's not like that. It's not like that. And I'm like, okay. I didn't think nothing of it. And at that point, I didn't think that God exists. And I saw him again another day, and he was like, yo, you ready to read stuff with me? I was like, nah, I'm not ready, man. I was like, there's no God. He's like, yeah, come check it out. And he's like, come with me to Brooklyn. I'm gonna go buy a Quran. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go with you. So I went. I bought a Quran. I opened to, the first page. I was like, why you got me reading about cows? So the Baqarah is translated as cow. I was like, why you got me reading about cows? He's like, no, it's not like that. And then I opened it to
You're like, I used to be Hindu, man.
I was like, I don't eat this stuff. I didn't eat beef till I was 25 years old.
Wow, yeah.
I didn't have a steak till I was 25 years old. And you hide from your parents. You have the high school burger and all that stuff, but it doesn't count.
And this is 07 or what's the year now?
Oof, I don't even know, man. This had to be like 2011.
Okay.
No, actually, no, 2010.
2010.
Because I opened a restaurant after, so I had the restaurant for about a year and a half. Then I started a tea business in 2012. So it was like...
You did tea?
Yeah. A matcha in New York. I had a matcha company before matcha was like hipsterfied and all that stuff.
I had a bubble tea company, so I love tea.
Yeah,
we can
cool.
talk about it later.
Right. But I opened it, and then I opened it to a random page. And I ended up on Surah Isra, which is very relevant today. But it was that it said that verily this Quran guides to the straight path, and it is from us. And it was the very first thing I read in the Quran. Yeah. And I was like, if you return to your sins, we should return to our punishment, and this is what guides to the truth. It was like the first couple ayahs. If anyone could go read Surah Isra, read like the first couple ayahs. And I'm like, I came into this without believing there's a God. And the very first thing I read in the Quran was like, this Quran guides to the straight path, and it is from a God, from us. And we have sent it down.
One of the many miracles of the Quran is that it speaks directly to you.
Yes.
Did you, when in that moment, as you're turning the page, you're being in this, you're at the steps, right? Like,
I was like, whoa. I was like, okay, all right. I was like, you know what? If there is a God, I'm going to find out. So I go to my dad's bookshelf with his Hindu scriptures, and I pulled up, I was like, Dad, where'd you have this thing? So I got the Upanishads, I got the Vedas, I got the Bhagavad Gita, all translations of them. Bhagavad Gita. So I read the Upanishads. The Upanishad is one of the books. You can't really find a Veda, but there's like explanations of Vedas and things of the sort. But the Upanishads said that God is one, without a second, and his form is not to be seen with the eye. In Hindu scriptures. The Bhagavad Gita talks about mythology. So what I think what I concluded as I've researched more, and I won't go into details on this, but that Hindus typically follow mythology than actually what the scriptures are saying, what the Upanishad says, what the Veda says, that God's form is not to be seen with the eye, and he's one without a partner. So at that point, I'm like, you know what? Hinduism isn't it. So I was like, Christianity seems cool. They can eat beef. About to
And
go
pork.
in. And pork.
Yeah,
You're
man.
right. Yeah, that's it.
And he forgives everything. You just got
So
to join the tag.
There you go. So there was a Christian bookstore on Woodhaven Boulevard. No, Queens Boulevard. Not close to my high school. I went to Thomas Edison High School in Jamaica. And I walked in. I was like, "Hey man, let me get a Bible." He's like, "Which one?" I'm like, "What do you mean, which one?" He's like, "Well, there's like 500 versions of it." I'm like, "Give me the most popular one." He gave me the King James. So I read the thing cover to cover, and I'm sure many of you have not read the Bible.
I've read 6 times.
It's confusing.
Yeah, very much so.
And so I went to a pastor. I said, "Hey man, who was Jesus talking to when he says, 'Oh Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done'? Who was he talking to? If he is God, who the hell was he talking to?" And they couldn't give me an answer. And I said, "Who did he prostrate to?" Because he said he prostrated. And as you do research, I mean, again, my knowledge of Christianity is a little bit muffled over the years, but from what I remember clearly was that most of what Christians follow is what Paul wrote. And Paul never met Jesus.
Well, they'll argue that the position is like, well, Paul met Jesus after his passing when he was in a caravan in Syria and then fell. And this is when Paul was,
That's
crucified.
one narration
That's
out of
one
hundreds
narration.
of people that say different.
Exactly. But that's his version of seeing Jesus. Wasn't even him when he was alive, but the image of Jesus, right?
Yeah.
So it's more of like a biography of his experience of Christianity. Yeah. And that doesn't even go into like the Apocrypha of all the books of the Gospels that were removed.
And also, Ahmed was mentioned in the Bible, but it was removed later. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah,
Again, won't go into details
the
of what I
church
learned.
fathers.
Anyways. Then I was like, well, Christianity's not it. Maybe I'll be Jew.
Yeah.
I'll be Jewish. So I started looking up into Judaism, and you really can't become a Jew. You're not really a Jew. You're like a convert Jew, but you're not like
a Jew by tribe. Yeah.
You're like a Jew by tribe.
Yeah.
And then I realized that the Jews don't really follow the Torah. The Torah doesn't really, you can't really find it. I don't think they actually have a full copy of the Torah. They follow the explanation of the Torah, and I totally forgot what it's called. I'm blanking on it right now, but that can change from rabbi to rabbi or community to community.
The Talmudic interpretation.
The Talmud, there you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I found that I was like, well, how is this any different than what the Christians are doing, right? In a different sects. And I'm like, well, if I can't become a Jew and I can't find the actual scriptures, then this is probably not it either, right? I looked into Buddhism and all that stuff, and I'm like, well, this is cool, but some scholars or some people would say that Buddha was a prophet. It's not authentic, but people say that. So I'm like, this is interesting. I was like, let me go back to the Quran. So I started reading the Quran cover to cover, and then I discovered the jinn. And everything I experienced makes sense.
When you say you discover the jinn, are you talking about
the
like the Surah jinn? Okay,
yes.
okay.
Surah jinn.
Yeah.
I discovered Surah jinn. I saw, I read Surah Maryam when they talk. I was like, this makes more sense. This to me wasn't contradicting anything else that came. I read about Musa. I read about all the prophets. I'm like, whoa. And Ibrahim and the idols. I'm like, maybe they were the Hindus, right? Maybe that's what it was. It all made sense to me, and it just clicked in my head, and I understood it. And I started researching more. And I'm big into quantum mechanics and astrology. I geek out on that stuff sometimes. And the stuff that the Quran talked about, there's no way a person could have known that. The ever-expanding universe, operating like slingshots, the 7 skies, 7 heavens, 7 earths. There's no way a person would have known that.
Even from a number sense, right? People talk about the amount of times the word land is mentioned, or the way how many times water is mentioned is the same proportion of how much land and water there exists on this entire planet. The amount of times men are mentioned and women are mentioned is accounted for the amount of chromosomes that humans have. It's one of those things when Allah says I can't give you more miracles for you to believe because I've already given you so much.
Which is why what I even loved about the Quran was that Allah never really said have faith. He says, do you not use your intellect? Do you not look at the creation within yourselves and everything else around you? Do you not take time to ponder? It was never about faith. when you talk to a Christian, you talk to anyone else, faith is better than fact to them. But for us, fact is better than faith.
That's a really good point.
And I love that you said to ponder, right?
Yeah.
When we look at all of the prophets, right, they always have a moment of pause and reflection.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it be in the whale, whether it be in the cave, or whether it be through the desert, there's this time of moment of to really just think. And even when we look at now, right, the highest level of converts in prisons are always Muslim.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah,
Well, because they have time to think, right? And I think in our society, it's all distractions. Consumerism that pushes you away to ponder and think about all the miracles and blessings that you've been given, to actually have a sense of gratitude towards the truth. And I feel like at this moment, you're getting time to ponder.
Yes. And you know, my successes in life, I think I always related back to what I left behind, because Allah says that when you leave something for me, I'll replace it 10 times more. SubhanAllah, Allah replaced for me 10 times more.
Whether it be in the dunya or in the akhirah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Allah gave it back. Many more.
When did you start having that acknowledgement that things were
I think, you know,
you gave up things?
Steve Jobs always says the dots never connect looking forward, it connects looking backwards. And it's a very cliche thing that people talk about.
Say that again.
Steve Jobs always used to say that the dots never connect looking forward, they only connect looking back. And for me, it was very, very much so, because I ended up borrowing some money, and I had some money stashed under my mattress, and don't tell the IRS. And I bought a restaurant, and I built out a restaurant, and it was called Big Bites. You can look up Big Bites Daily News, and you'll see a big article on us. We did like burgers and wings competitions and all that stuff. And I had it for about a year before. This was, I was 25 years old. And then I sold it, right? Restaurant business wasn't for me. And then I launched, I was tired of brick and mortar, and I wanted to get into more e-com and selling something online. And this is the time that Shopify was like 2 years old at that point, and Facebook was still relatively new. And I ended up launching a tea business, and I launched a matcha company and got distribution through like retailers, and did that for a long time. And I was doing that, and I was doing that while just like doing odd things here and there to survive, right? Because it was bootstrapped. There's no resources like they were today about how to launch a CPG brand. I'm like, I see people today launching brands, like, you guys are spoiled, because we literally had to figure this shit out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And my point in telling you all of that is, and why the dots are essentially connected for me, is that I met a guy named Mohammed, Egyptian guy, very, very good friend of mine. And he's I call him my best friend. He went to City College for architecture, and randomly one day he was like, "Hey man, they are looking for someone to help their incubator, the Zahn Center incubator, and someone who like knows about business to consult for them." I was like, "Okay, I'll show up there." And I was like, "I'm not gonna do that. I don't know anything about any of that stuff." So again, I went and I showed up, and when I went there, I ended up meeting a bunch of companies. One of them, Next Health, was starting out in that company. Waleed and all those guys, like, they were still in the Zahn incubator trying to build out Next Health before now it's $1 billion company. But I met someone from Techstars, and I got into the world of tech by taking that job, right? And in my tea business, we had a problem with demand planning and forecasting, and I ended up looking for a developer to help me to build a demand planning tool. And that ended up turning into my last company, Union Crate, that built an AI demand planning tool. And that would not have happened if I didn't go through the steps that I went through, right? Looking back now, there's no way I would have planned to be at the masjid at this time, meet this guy named Mohammed. Because I met this guy named Mohammed, he got me into the Zahn Incubator Center. Because I went to the Zahn Incubator Center, I met Waleed and Next Health guys, and then I met Techstars folks, and then I ended up going to Techstars event and hiring a developer to build me a demand planning tool. Then I met a Techstars investor, and she ended up writing a check into my first company, not knowing a thing about tech, and then starting my journey.
The invisible hand that guides us.
You see what I mean?
No, absolutely. I mean, this is this very important concept that I really like to give reference to from Mohammed Faris. It's called The Barakah Effect. It's this book that he wrote, and he summarizes it in a way that basically says that we today see things from a very like formula-based perspective, very Western. A plus B equals AB, right? Or whatever the equation means. And that's okay. But it negates the spiritual components that we just can't see. And like, it just dawns on me that there's so many experiences that you have that you just can't like formulate and plan to that level. You just have to at one point say, "Ya Allah, if this is best for me, bring it to me. And if it's not, keep it away."
I mean,
and that's the concept of like barakah, right? Like you can do a lot with a little and
100%.
just show up and it just kind of can work itself out. And if it doesn't work itself out, have faith that that's probably the best thing for you.
Yeah. It's everything that's ever happened to me in life. Looking back at it, it's like, wow, if that had happened, this wouldn't have happened. If this didn't happen, it's just there's so many things looking back at it. That's why I say like now where I am in my life, even I'm from New York City my entire life, and I just moved to Atlanta, and I've been there for about 2 years. And I always refer to like I always joke around with people. I'm like the kind of early 2000s, 90s, 80s baby is like Jay-Z says, put me anywhere in God's green earth, I'll triple my worth. Mm-hmm. And I always think about myself in that way because I landed there and ended up tripling my worth for 2 years. Like, but I ended up in these right circles and these people that there's no way I could have planned that. Mm-hmm. No way. And I think about it, it's like, could I have done? There's no way. I went to this event. I met this person. I wasn't going to the event. Something forced me to go to the event, and I ended up there. So now I have a rule for myself that the thing I don't feel like doing, I do it anyways. I didn't even want to come do this. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go do it. Maybe I'm going to meet some cool guys.
Hopefully that becomes true. It'll be at the restaurant.
So it's just, so now I do things that I don't want to do. Always.
I mean, I think all of this kind of also compares to one of the first things that you said in this discussion, which is like, you kind of don't really care what other people have to think about you.
I don't.
Why? I mean, to a degree, you can like try to understand it and look at it from a factual standpoint and like, hey, is it correct? Is it not? Can it improve? So not to disregard what people are saying, but not to the point where it changes who you are at your core, because at the end of the day, like what's meant to be will be, right?
People are negative by nature, what I've learned. And there's the only reason why I think, and this is verified, I think, in Islam. And if there's more, not everyone's more knowledgeable than me, so please, if I am wrong, may Allah forgive me on all of this. But I think one of the reasons why it's very prevalent in the Sunnah and the Quran is like, have good thoughts, find 72 excuses for your brother, right? Because naturally we're negative thinkers. Our brain protects us from being hurt, from being, scarred. So we think negatively all the time. The reason why I don't really care what people think sometimes is because I know naturally people are going to think negatively about something. People will remember not the 50 good things you did, but the one bad thing you did.
And oftentimes people are projecting beyond anything unknowingly.
110%.
Right? And so it's sometimes like,
for the married people, you get projected all the time.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you, but yeah.
But it's...
I'm not going to comment on that.
Plead the fifth.
It's too late for you, brother.
No, but I have a question. Do you think that you have that point of view because of the environment that you grew up in and the experiences that you face, or you think that that's kind of a universal truth or fact?
I think it's a universal truth and fact. I think everyone is always sizing everyone up.
Everyone is always sizing everyone. You don't think there's people out there that just truly...
Exception proves the rule, though.
Okay.
Ooh, I like that.
Exceptions prove a rule.
Expand on that. Like, what do you...
If there's
you think that there's so many few people that are truly like caring and going out of their way and they don't have any ill will or intention behind you, that small amount, that the fact that there's so many... The fact that the volume of that is less, you're saying that means everyone else is kind of a certain way. And so predominantly you feel that most people have ill will or ill intentions.
I don't think
subconsciously or
I
subconsciously.
don't think people have ill will and ill intentions.
Okay.
I think that subconsciously people have negative thoughts about others. Like, a guy like me with a black hoodie on sitting on the train, oh, he's up to no good. Or like me walking around with the sweatpants and a black t-shirt with a Yankees hat on. What would you perceive me to be?
That you chose the wrong sports team.
Okay. That's a good answer.
That's a great answer.
But you see what I mean? Like,
No
one,
one
this guy's like,
but
maybe he's a doctor.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it is like it's valid, but sometimes a lot of those processes in our minds come from which kind of proves your point here, a instinctive element within us to guard ourselves,
maybe
to protect ourselves.
Yes, because then you have the people that, and to your point, maybe it is I'm a product of my environment. Like, oh, that dude's trying to rob me. I need to tuck my chain, right? I didn't tuck my chain for you guys. I just keep my chain tucked. It's silver, so I can't really fold. They're not gonna get my chain.
Same, man. Same.
It's a Palestinian coin. That's all it is. I think, so it could be that, because then you this is, I guess, where the sense of naiveness comes from. You may have people that grew up in the safest of neighborhoods and the safest of things, and like they're naive of what
could happen.
Right? Maybe, again, whatever I'm saying is probably wrong. It is just the way that I'm thinking about it. I always, and it also could be the color of my skin. When I'm going into a room, I think that people are judging me. I mean, even today, I experience my voice as a CEO not being heard. And the thing that I think about is that I bet if it was a white guy in this position, they would have listened to them. They wouldn't have to check with the other white guy in the room.
I mean, I think a lot of these experiences are, in a weird way, can be gaslighting at times.
Maybe.
Right? Which, like, I'm not dismissing, because I do agree with those from, whether it be even female founders, right? They could be the most successful one in the room in a group of, centrically being like, let's say, white men spaces, right? And then even then, their voices or opinions will be diminished or not heard. Yeah. And I think it's something we have to be aware of a room or a situation, but also to make sure that because of that, we're not muting our voice and our perspective on things. Because at the end of the day, you have, with some element of luck, but luck and opportunity and execution kind of got you there as well. Now.
Yeah. And I, something I try to practice myself too. Like I've been really trying to give 72 excuses for people and for things and situations and so on. And again, that's why I think that, again, I could be wrong, but I feel that the reason why it was mentioned of finding 72 excuses or thinking good of others, having good thoughts, is because naturally we are not that.
And it is a frame of mindset, right? Your thoughts become your words become your actions, and your actions become your character.
I am how my slave thinks of me.
Yeah, and so I think it is like, whether it be dhikr or all these things, because an absent mind is a mind that can be occupied by something else, right? Yeah. And that could be of your nafs, or it could be of your situation. Yeah. I mean, that's like the thing, even with, I try not to listen to music on Fridays, but it's something I've become even more conscious of, like the music I even listen to, like how am I programming myself?
That's right? The thing, right? I mean, look, you play any beat or song from that time, I'll tell you exactly what it is. I was addicted to music. I mean, I had nightclubs. I went to sleep with music in my ear. I love music. I force myself not to listen to music. It's hard for me, but again, the reason why is not only, I know there's difference of opinions and things of the sort, and I'm not going to go into that. My choice of not listening to it is because of what it does to my brain.
And I don't think it's like, I think oftentimes the conversation around that shouldn't be pinned on halal or haram,
100%, but just
should be like, do you feel like it's generally bettering you or not, right? Like there's things that in excess of halal could be bad for you, right? Like if I can eat a halal burger, that's permissible, but should I eat 900 of those?
No,
right?
Yeah, of course,
absolutely not.
Yeah,
right?
And again, I'm never the one to judge, because there's no one that could have done, there's no Muslim that I probably meet can do the things that I've ever done as a non-Muslim. And a lot of converts, and even some converts can't tell you that, right? There are very few converts that say, like, I've owned nightclubs. I own a nightclub. I was buying a second nightclub. I've done things that people don't even think about.
And Shastri,
I don't judge, my point. So if someone listens to music, does this, like...
I would also, sometimes encourage Muslims, and even yourself sometimes, like sometimes when we have these opinions of ourselves, is that we name our children, or some of our closest friends are named after, the companions of the Prophet that did things worse than we could even think of. in a
Almost.
period before Islam
Yeah, like
existed,
yeah.
right? And we honor those people, and that shows you the miracle of the message and guidance of Allah can really do when you really put, you know, your belief and faith into those
Yeah,
things.
and the thing that helps me a lot with again, there's a lot of things that are struggles for me in all of this. You know, like music is a struggle, alcohol is like I can if I see it, I can taste it in my mouth. You know, it's something that you don't really forget, right? Women, things of this sort that converts will all struggle with. It's nothing to be ashamed of. People struggle with forcing themselves to do things. But the thing that you think about is like, would you do a thing, like would the chosen people, the people that were the best of people, can you see them doing these things or listening to these things? Right? It's how I reconcile it within my head.
Yeah, and I also want to like shine a light. Like those are struggles that like all Muslims have, right?
Yeah.
And I think it goes beyond just.
And there's nothing
just
wrong with that. We
converts.
all.
And alhamdulillah, that's the point of Islam,
Yeah.
right? Is to give us guidance and keep us on the straight path. And I think one of the things that I think was in Omar Solomon's book that he wrote about love, particularly, but in it was talking about how Allah loves those who come back to Him. Sin and come back to Him.
Yeah, if the people didn't sin and ask for forgiveness, I'll replace us with the people that sinned and ask for forgiveness.
And that's something I had to really ponder and think about why. Because in my mind, as a human, I'm like, that logic does not make sense. Because me as a human, I would treat the friend that's been good to me, that has never wronged me, versus a friend who has wronged me and tries to come back and do things right.
There's a thing though. Allah
right?
says you're not wronging me, you're wronging yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things, but in terms of like also like when you fall into sin, those things are tempting by design.
Yeah.
Right? And so once you know more or less the forbidden fruit of things, abstaining away from those things becomes way harder.
Yeah.
Because now you know.
Yeah.
And the resisting and for me that logic became like, oh, Allah understands my struggle. And how much harder it is for me to abstain from those things. And I'm doing it for the sake of Allah. Yeah. Maybe that's why I feel closer to Him now. Because I'm being way more conscious of it. Because I also know how much harder my nafs and shaitan are working to pull me away from Him.
Yep.
And I think that's like when we look at community members that we really, you know, and may Allah protect, you know, our scholars and our sheikhs and our imams, but shaitan works the hardest on them. Yeah. Because if he can get one of them, whole communities fall apart.
And that's why I always hate when these things happen to people, like, you know, then Oman Ali Khan and all that people, especially, you know, women. And again, you don't, we always talk about what's happening with them, but in reality, their sins are just public.
Right.
Ours are private.
We have that convenience.
I mean, not glorifying anything for what anyone did, but we always have to remember that their sins are public, ours are private. We need to remember that everyone sins in their own way. We all have our one thing that we do or two things that we do. Ours are just private.
So I want to recenter us.
Yeah,
and this conversation has been really meaningful. So you're going through this process of self-discovery and you're finding yourself in circles that you probably didn't think may have ever existed. And now you're kind of falling deep into it, alhamdulillah. What's going through your head? Did you ever have like imposter syndrome in these spaces? Because not only are you hanging in tech circles, but you're hanging out with like Muslims too. And I know when I speak to a lot of converts, they have a difficult time of like identities, but you're kind of covering a lot of identities in a new realm. How are you entering those spaces?
I still have imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I still, till this day, I struggle with it. I struggle with it so much. I never think I'm good enough. I never think I'm worth. I was like, why are they talking to me? Like, why am I here? Why did they ask me? Who am I? Like, I'm not a nobody. And then people say like, do you know what you did? Do you know these things? I'm like, So I don't put myself. So anyways, yes, I struggle, especially with Muslims. Like when I converted, I didn't like Muslims. They're mean. Muslims judged me all the time.
That's unfortunate.
I unfortunately
that you felt like that.
I did.
You know?
My first Ramadan was in New York City in August, which the fasting was like 16, 17 hours. And I didn't know that it was like sunrise to sundown. And I used to start my fast because I was living at my parents' house at the time because I didn't have any money. It was broke as hell. I had health bankruptcy, lost everything. And I used to start my fast with Ritz crackers and a bottle of water, 17-hour fast with a couple of Ritz crackers because I didn't want my mom hear me go downstairs and say, why are you awake at 3 o'clock in the morning?
I'm guessing, did your family know that you had...
They didn't know for a year.
Wow.
They didn't know for a long time.
Were you scared to tell them, or were you?
Yeah, I told him my dad's like, oh, you're a terrorist now?
Wow.
He's good now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you say yes? I'm just kidding. No.
Oh my God.
Me at the TSA border. Yes. I mean,
P-check on revoked. Oh, man. Yeah, it was a tough time, man. But anyways, my point is that, so I didn't know. It was the Yemeni dude at the bodega was like, yo, bro, you ordered a turkey sandwich? I was like, yeah. I was fasting all day. He's like, why are you eating now? I was like, what do you mean? It's 6 o'clock, because Hindus fast till 6.
Oh.
And he was like, oh, you have to wait till sundown. I was like, freaking hell, my turkey sandwich.
I love it all, man. I like such a fast,
Yeah.
bro.
So it was hard because imagine like 4
Yeah.
Ritz crackers and
Yeah,
water,
yeah.
the saltiest thing you could find for 17 hours. It's just hard. And then Muslims were just like mean. I was about to get a sleeve tattoo and all that stuff, and people were like ostracizing me, and your pants are too long. This is happening. You can't take I had my ears pierced. You got to take your earrings off. Why do you have earrings on? I used to go to the masjid and I had earrings on. I had piercings. I was a very different person you see today, right? I was different. It's like, oh, you can't pray with earrings and this and this. I'm like, what do you mean? What's going on?
It was almost like a fire hydrant of.
Yeah, I'm like, what? So I didn't talk to Muslims for a long time. I never wanted to be around them. And then one day, someone called me up and says, hey, we're going to this masjid in Queens. They bought a church and they have to remove the organ, they call it, the piano with the pipes. Yeah. And I went there and I met Mohammed Bajor and I met Shakil Humayun and I met Shinawi and all these guys. And I'm like, oh, they're nice. And then I learned Islam from those guys.
You know, there was this is about 2.5 years ago, and I had, for some reason, this mufti from Atlanta. He used to live in Atlanta, Mufti Pochi. Absolutely love the man. He had invited me to like go to his house, and it was going to be him and like 4 other muftis. Yeah. And I'm like, the heck am I doing in this space? Yeah. You know, and of course I went and they're just roasting me because I'm the brown guy with like cowboy boots on and growing up in East Texas. And so, but you know, it's kind of funny because from a perception, again, we all have biases on when we look at people, unfortunately. My perception is I'm going to get roasted for all these reasons I think I'm going to get roasted for. Right? But in reality, you know, they're they're like, you know, all men, like they're just pulling and teasing. But they were some of the softest people and most understanding and kindest people. Now, my question is that a lot of times, you know, if you were on the other side, right? If you were, let's say, a Muslim brother and you saw yourself in that time, what is the proper way of giving guidance or suggestions on, you know, elements of sunnah and things like that?
I think the elements of sunnah is that if you see they're doing something wrong, you can leave it alone. You can leave it alone. You know, if the man peeing in the masjid, at the Prophet, he didn't go stop him and ostracize him. He said, let him finish. Tell him later. A lot of situations like that. The alcoholic, one of the companions of that were, you know, drinking, he told him in the gentlest of ways. I think you see someone doing something, you assume, again, going back to assuming negative, that they just don't know. They just don't know. Maybe they're new. Treat them with kind. The thing that made my parents come around is that they saw my character change. I stopped cursing. I treated them more with respect. I talked gentler to them. And what made them come around is because my etiquette with my parents changed completely. So I think, number one, what I do when I see people, whatever it is they look like, whatever else they dress like, whatever else they're doing, just meet them with kindness. Meet them with etiquette, proper character. There's a key to that. That's the key. So what I would have wished people to do is not say, brother, you can't wear your earrings while praying. Let me pray. I'm there praying. Are you going to go tell the alcoholic he can't come to the masjid and pray because Allah says don't come to approach the prayer drunk? No, he's at the masjid, which means there's good in him. When he was drunk, he showed up at the masjid and he says, I'm going to go pray. Who cares if he's drunk? He's taking a step forward. So I would hope that if I was in that situation, I would have approached it with a little kindness. So if I see someone doing a thing or someone tells me they're doing, like I meet people, I know Muslims that will still take an occasional drink or do these. You know that's not okay, right? Yeah, you know that. Yeah, I know. I'm like, yeah, but you have your struggle. I get it. as long as you know that's not okay. So, I mean, that's what I think. I think that we're very judgmental to others and not judgmental enough to ourselves. Me, as reminded to myself first.
I think oftentimes, and I hope I'm wrong, but maybe this resonates with y'all, but I feel like oftentimes we're quick to judge and speak for guide or share guidance versus making dua for them that they are given guidance from Allah. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. And I think we underestimate what it means to be kind.
Mm-hmm.
We underestimate what it means to be kind to others. We're always like, and again, I'm at fault for this too. I'm the number one that's fault to it, because I always say, you know, again, a Queens kid and New York kid, oh, let me go talk to them. I'll make it happen. But in reality, it's like, I should just probably be kind.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, and I think there's a sense of like test of patience for our own selves,
Yeah.
right? That because I mean, you know, you're observant, right? Even if you didn't get feedback, you can read a room eventually, and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do X, Y, Z. Everyone picks up on these things over time,
Yeah.
and just hoping for the best. So, what really stuck out to this new group of folks that you're meeting when you guys are, you know, refurbishing this masjid? What stood out from them that you're like, these are the people I need to, you know, stay close to?
They just talked to me. They didn't judge me. They didn't tell me anything about my earrings. They didn't tell me about my clothes. They didn't tell me anything about anything. They just said salam and had a conversation with me. They say, hey, we're going to do this class this weekend. You should come check it out.
See, I think sometimes when I think about these types of scenarios or situations like what you've experienced, it's, to me, it just seems so short-sighted. And I feel like the intention isn't as good as it can be, right?
Yeah.
Like, if the intention is to help someone, then maybe like blasting them on the comments isn't the best way to do it. There's got to be adhab to like something that you do. And sometimes maybe it's not even you that needs to say it if you really care, you know? So it's like, to me, I feel like those are the types of situations that actually push people away more,
It 100%
unfortunately.
does. It does.
And I mean, it's a good reminder for all of us to be cognizant of our own like awareness of some of these things. So, I mean, you're in a time period at this point where you're found a group that, alhamdulillah, is bringing you closer to Islam.
Yeah.
I think at this time, are you kind of venturing into the startup space?
It was not yet. I met that guy at the masjid.
Okay.
Because I call myself a closet designer.
Designer.
Yeah, because I'm not a designer by trade or by anything, but I like doing branding, logos, design. I have an eye for it. The Friday logo, I did that and things of the sort. So I was helping the masjid with like design stuff, and I ended up meeting the guy there because of that. So I wasn't in tech yet. That journey of tech started out, which is why the dots don't really connect, is that me agreeing to go help move that freaking piano and then me meeting the brothers. I learned Arabic that year. I learned
moving a musical instrument to build a masjid, and music is a difficult.
Well, because it was a church.
I know, but like the connection in my mind is like subhanAllah, like you're moving something that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It was Masjid Isa ibn Maryam, and then I learned everything from there. I learned Arabic. I learned like, you know, a lot of classes I took there with Mohammed Bajor and Shakil Humayun and Shanawi and all these brothers over there. So my journey in tech started a couple years after that, but was started from that much, which is why I said Allah replaced for me 10 times more, and it replaced for me by going through the journey of the masjid and going through the journey of all those things. But I still feel like an imposter in everything.
I feel like you're, I don't know. For me, I feel like everyone feels like they're an imposter, but it's kind of like you have to kind of sometimes get over it. But at the same time, it's like, as you're leveling up, you're always like in a new room. And it's just like, I feel like that just happens for someone who's a real builder. Like, you're always more critical about yourself.
Maybe.
Right?
Like, I feel like I'm not supposed to be in this room.
Well, me too.
Like, bro, honestly, us texting, I was like, I don't feel like I'm not good enough to even text this man.
No, it's not even like this room, but some of the rooms that I'm in, I'm like, I mean, I have guys picking me up from the airports that their watches cost as much as houses, and I'm like, why are you picking me up, bro? Like, what the, you know? It's just like people that you talk to, and you know.
Yeah, but I think
it humbles you, though, right?
We attribute different things depending on how you want to attribute it, right?
Yeah.
Like, to me, like, I don't know. I could care. I mean, I could care less what how expensive someone's watch is. Like that doesn't really influence me personally.
Or even like, I'll give you a different example. Like, you know, Mohammed Bajor, like if I, you know, having lunch with him or dinner with him, like, man, you could be sitting with anyone else, but this kid with the Yankees hat on from Queens. But you're choosing to spend your time with me. What did I do? Right? It's, you feel like I don't belong here. I think I still feel like I don't belong here. Even tomorrow, you know, things that I'm going to go do, I feel like, why am I here?
But I think sometimes we try to place our own assumption of where we should be versus trusting that Allah has put you in a place for a bigger purpose and reason.
Yeah.
That Allah is entrusting you to be in this space for a reason.
Yes.
And I think, and something I try to ground myself in is that, like, okay, I feel like I shouldn't belong here.
Yeah.
But maybe me being here is a form of dawah. Maybe it's a form of representing Islam. Maybe it's some knowledge that I need to share, or if there's something deep in my heart that I need to speak up on in this space, but I feel scared to do so. I need to remind myself, like, I'm not here alone. I'm here in remembrance of Allah as well, and that's why I need to be in this space.
I mean, there's something to be said, and I forgot who said this, but we may not always be the Quran teacher or the Arabic teacher or the so on, but we have gifts that we have to give to the world. Maybe I'm a great builder and I can help people. I can use my efforts to help society, which is why Friday was created, right? Maybe I can use my efforts to empower the people who can't empower themselves, right? With my skills, or maybe Allah has put me through these things and taught me these things so that I can do something with it in the future, right? Maybe. Absolutely. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I can't help but feeling like an imposter.
Yeah,
that is probably something I have to work on with a therapist. But I do feel that way. I do feel that I'm not good enough always.
Do you feel like having that feeling keeps you grounded or keeps you humble?
I think it does. I think it does. I think it holds me back at sometimes, but I does think it keeps me humble, and I don't want to let go of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to have this like, oh, you should be talking to me, because there's always someone better than you. Always.
Kind of keeps you away from pride.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I hold on to it. I hold on to it very dearly.
Is there, you know, as you're kind of venturing into this space now, right? Where did you see? Because at this point, are you making money? Because you know you were bankrupt, you're doing all this self-discovery, but you're a 23-year-old man.
Well,
right?
I was 25, 26, 27. Yeah, I was making money at the restaurant, the tea company. I was making some money as well too. I didn't really start making money until I went into tech.
Okay.
Because I think, you know, the reason why I did pretty decent in raising funds from like the founders funds and Susa Ventures and Google and all that, as a person that looks like me, was because I had to pitch myself in really uncomfortable rooms. So for me, that was a comfortable room. I sat around really dangerous people, really bad people, and I had to talk myself out of things, or I had to, you know, convince people to give me things and so on. So I think I was probably good at those conversations because I went through certain things in my life. But I wasn't making money until I really got into tech. And then as I've built companies and I sacrificed and I sucked it up, I got to the point where sometimes I go into these, like the company that I'm CEO of now, I was technically asked to be the CEO and co-founder of this business, right? It is not an idea that I created on my own. And, you know, I even went into the conversation. I was like, look, this is the amount of money I need to make. If you can't pay me, I'm not going to do it. So I think founders are always, and I had investors come and tell me, oh, you're making a lot. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I wanted. I'm not going to be a scrappy founder. So I think I only started making money in tech, but as I've gained my experience, even though I think I'm an imposter, I still stand up for what I think is right and what I think is right in principle.
How do you maintain the sense of this is my value and I'm not going to capitulate on that, even while dealing with this imposter syndrome?
You take a bet.
On yourself?
You just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. It's like, you offered me 10K, okay, I'm worth 15. It's exactly that.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to say it, and see where it goes.
Right.
And when it goes there, it's like, okay, new bar set. It's not. It's like, even, it's just some things, even like consulting gigs and contracts and things. I'm like, this is what you're going to pay me. Even this is what you offered me. And just, yeah, okay. But again, that's because of my imposter syndrome. I know people do these things and charge these things and do that. It's a battle. It's very uncomfortable, and it's like IBS uncomfortable. It's just like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. 1 second.
Down the hall to the right.
So maybe you can give us a little bit of background information about the current company that you're working with.
Yeah.
So if you had to summarize it, like, how can you simplify like what you're working on today?
Yeah. So the company that I'm CEO of right now, and I've built a couple other things, and I'll talk about it as well too. It's funny how that it started. So when I built that business and I stepped down, I'll give you the backstory. I ended up getting bored and wanted to build something else. And a brother approached me, and he's kind of Imam Sheikh and a very big business owner. And we had this idea of like making a Sharia compliant real estate investing, right? Not necessarily geared towards Muslims, but also geared towards Muslims in the way that it's structured. So I built this business called Dome, which is joindome.com, right? That essentially is fractional real estate investings. And you have Landa, but Landa is super Zionist. You have, Yield Street, you have Fundrise, all these things, but this is actually interest-free, fractional, and so on. So we ended up, between that gap year, raised like $1 million from high net worth individuals, built out this business. We have SEC approval to raise up to like 75 million. Not going to go into that, but so I was building this thing, and then one of my previous investors asked me to come be the CEO and co-founder of the company that I am with now, which is a company called Ferry. Ferry essentially makes it really easy for a restaurant or enterprise, specifically restaurant, to manage a tip-out process and pay their employees tips and wages same day. That seems like a very
good idea.
Simple thing though, because like tips is like, okay, you pay tips, but it's super complicated because there's regulations that have to be followed on a state-by-state basis. And there's tax implications and legal liabilities and cash costs and things of the sort. So we have an enterprise software that facilitates an enterprise like Cheesecake Factory, one of our customers, to tip out their employees, pay out their employees. So we are essentially the last mile of payroll. We work with really big customers like BJ's Restaurants, Cheesecake Factory, and so on.
That's an interesting thing, because I don't think a lot of people that have not been in the restaurant business, they don't know that like once you go to the store and or once you go to the restaurant and you pay, it's like, first of all, like 3% or 2%, whatever comes off the top. So then after that, it takes them, if it's fast, 30 days to receive the cash, sometimes longer, 60 days, 90 days. 100%. And so therefore this creates this type of cash flow problem or problem, or issue. And, these restaurants, like they're razor thin margins as is.
And also sometimes some of them are, because the employees don't like that, in order to keep their employees, they're hiring armored truck services to bring in cash to pay them same day. Because when you write $20 on a receipt, where's that money coming from?
Yeah, the credit cards,
banks.
You have to wait 24 hours for it to clear in your account.
T+2.
Yeah, so we do that, and that's essentially what we do. I've been doing it for about 2.5 years now, and kind of like the full-time thing I do. Yeah, and then Friday Ventures, which I'm sure you guys know about, or Friday is general. I started that because what was kind of happening in the world, in Philistine and so on. And I'm like, we're not as organized as our cousins. They circulate money within their communities multiple times. We circulate money amongst ourselves. We don't share the wealth and the knowledge and so on. And the idea is like, the thought for Friday when I had the idea, Arshan and I came together. I had this idea back after October 7th and all that stuff happened. Not that it started on October 7th. It's just when the world became aware of it. I was going to build it, and the idea of it was to be a community of wealth builders, right? And because of the world that I came from, I knew that there is a way for us to generate cash as Muslims. And I wanted to create a room of people who's interested in cash flow. And then I met Arshan and his community, and we kind of was like, hey, let's come together and do this thing together. And Noor and everyone else, like, do this thing together. And the goal of Friday was never really to compete with others in the world the Elifs and everyone else. We really wanted to be this exclusive community of wealth builders, as we would call it. And then Friday Ventures, we kind of launched that after, as a way to not be really a tech investor. We're going to invest in tech, which we have, but we also want to invest in cash flowing businesses because we want to be able to return capital to our Muslim LPs, right? So that was the thesis around all those things. And really, how do we create cash flow for our communities? Because in tech, you're not doing that. I mean, probably less than 1% of tech companies are going to return capital to their investors, right?
If that.
If that.
Yeah. So would you say that it's a fair summarization that Friday Ventures is like, what if you had to put it on a percentage, like for a type of a business, right? Would you say that you guys are kind of exclusively looking at cash flowing businesses? You guys don't invest? You do invest in tech startups?
We do.
There's definitely a different risk profile and tolerance. It's like, how would you categorize sort of your LPs and what percentage basis you're kind of looking at for each one of those?
I don't like really, really early stage companies that do not have some level of product market fit. I think tech right now is everyone and their mama is starting a company, and there's so many cannibalization happening within the tech world, and no one's making any money. LPs are not returning, getting their funds back. VC funds are having to sell secondaries, right? There's just this like big Ponzi scheme that's happening within the VC world. Maybe that people not gonna like I say that word, but that's just what it seems like. So everyone's goal is to start a tech company and to sell a product and raise VC funds. No one's goal is to make money.
It's an American dream.
Well, like where do we go?
Where will the buck stop, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
at
yeah.
one point,
It's like-
right, you have to have enough value generate. Like what's the difference between an MLM and regular marketing? Is that the basis of it is like there's actual value associated with what you're marketing versus like you're trying to poach people to be part of the ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
So in this case, like. I'm just not a fan of so much things that I see like in the startup ecosystem. Naveed's laughing because we've had a lot of these discussions, but it's like I've seen so many people make like, I don't know, 20, 30 grand in a month, and they're like 20K MRR. And I'm like, dude,
I met a company the other day.
How long have you had MRR?
I met a company the other day that said they're doing 500K in ARR. And
how
then
long?
when I dug into it, it was pilot revenue. I was like, so it's not ARR, it's pilots.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah,
it's,
so this-
Could you describe what that means? Like pilot?
pilot means that someone paid them for a proof of concept or a pilot. It's not, you don't have a recurring contract for, you're paying me $100,000 a year.
So it's like a one-time payment.
One-time
almost.
payment. It's a one-time payment.
test.
I see.
It's a test.
Gotcha.
So I think we lost the goal for a while. Like, it's fine for these people of privilege, as I call it. And in Muslims world, we have a lot of people of privilege,
100%.
man, because their parents worked hard and gave their kids money. They went through college, did all these different things. But the goal has become, I'm going to go have this idea and I'm going to go raise a bunch of money and I'm going to be TechCrunch famous. No one, where I grew up is like, we're going to make money. We're going to make cash. That's gone out the window. No one, people are sacrificing their time and their lives for something that may never come up. So even in my business now, I'm like, look, I don't want to burn a bunch of money. I really want to be profitable. We're like this close to profitability when we're 2.5 years old.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Everything I do now, I want to make money. Because think about it, do the math, right? A founder is going to go through multiple rounds of dilution. Let's say a founder ends up with like 5% of their business. For that 5% to be meaningful, they have to sell for like $1 billion. If they sell for like $100 million or something, they're going to, make a decent amount of money, 10, 20 million bucks. And it might take them 10 years or 5 years. But what if you made $1 million a year in raw cash? Isn't it the same thing with less headache? And you're not dependent on like all the stress? It's doable. That's what people did. That's what our families did. We made cash.
Well, see, for this is definitely a very Silicon Valley or like SF mentality of like invest significant amounts of capital, a hockey stick or die type of concept, right? In Dallas, I can tell you it's definitely very different, like in terms of like the VC environment. And it's because the type of profile that you get with a lot of the investor class there, at least the private equity firms, they're like coming from real estate and they're coming from oil and gas. So explaining like the risk tolerance of a software company is very, very different. They're like, hey, what have you done tangibly real? Now, I think that there's extremes to there's advantages and disadvantages for both. How do you balance that? Because that's like, you do need sometimes capital at certain moments, but at the same time, you don't want to like dilute or raise something that doesn't make sense where you've lost the vision of what you're trying to do, right? So how do you balance both of those?
I will say,
profiles?
before I answer that question though, I will say that, when I moved to Atlanta, I feel like it made me really think about this deeply, because I'm into cars. So when I go to these car events and things, people pulling up at the SVJs, if you don't know what that is, it's a very expensive Lamborghini. People pulling with the Bugattis or the R8s, they don't have tech companies. They have a landscaping business. Mm-hmm. They have restaurants. They do window cleaning. They do all these boring ass shit, which I don't know if I should say that stuff for Allah.
And they're not in like massive debt.
Yeah.
And they're chilling.
Yeah, it's because you overlook those businesses that are just necessary functions of society. That it just doesn't sound sexy to do those things, but it's profitable, baby.
Weight loss clinics, all these boring stuff. And who in the tech world is driving the Bugattis? The investors, or the one or two founders, like the the native founder and then the Truebill guys. They can afford it, right? That's probably not their thing, but there are a few people that can do that. But what headaches and things they have to go through to do those things. But there's so much. The world is such a big place. There's so much opportunity in this bubble. And I'm not saying we should stop being innovators, but I think we should stop being me toos. This is what's happening. Me too. I'm gonna build a better CRM. I'm gonna build this better thing, dude. How many CRMs do we freaking need? Right. So how do you balance it? I think there needs to be, especially with Muslims, we need to have this mentality shift of we're going to build things and not depend on other people to help us build those things. We're not going to depend on other people's money to build it. We're going to build it the right way.
This is out of ignorance, so keep me in check. Do you feel like there is this... like what we just talked about, what we're more or less attacking, right? Is
not attacking, difference of opinion,
criticizing.
Yeah, it's
right?
I haven't drawn a conclusion on it to be honest.
Yeah.
But
I haven't either. Like I said, I'm an investor. We invested in Sully, which great company. We invested in that. We invested in like a deep tech company, which is building something in for solar, no revenue yet. So like we're taking bets on things, but then we're also investing in like boring things, like Haraz coffee shop or like other things of the sort,
I guess what I was going to ask is, and I don't really have a firm opinion on things, but in this space, does it seem like people are like, how can we make money off of debt versus like, how can we just make money? Does that make sense? Because like when you're loaning all this money, when you're borrowing all this money, the bet is that, okay, they're going to find customers and people are going to come flying through the doors, versus like your landscaping business or coffee shops, right? Where
I'm not saying go build landscaping businesses.
I know, but I'm just as an example. But
I'm saying that what people are doing is building themselves more safety nets instead of taking risks or hustling. Going back to the beginning here, I always like to connect the dots in the start. I think that I'm not saying go build a landscaping business. I'm not saying do any of that stuff. I'm saying that people are coming out of college and saying, I'm going to go build a startup. I hate that phrase. I freaking hate it. If there's one thing I'm criticizing is not saying I'm going to go build a startup. Are you going to build a business or are you going to build a startup?
Can you explain the differentiation?
Building a business is something that makes money. In my opinion. Again, I could be wrong and people can hate me for it. Don't care. But are you building a business? Because by definition, a business is something that you make money, you reinvest that money, and you take your profits. It's a business. What does it mean to build a startup? It means that you're going to go have this idea, which not I'm saying what it means. I'm saying what people think it means. I'm going to have an idea, and I'm going to get someone else to fund my gamble, which is fine, but it's also building yourself this kind of state. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not shitting on, like I said, I make my money in this thing. I'm saying let's think about it in a way is how am I going to build a business? How am I going to take this idea that I'm asking people to invest in and actually make them money? When you take money from an investor, that's an amana, that's a trust that they're giving to you. Far too often people are viewing the money they take from VCs as like free cash and a success. I view it as a burden.
It is. It should be.
Like people say, are you happy you raised $8 million? No, I'm not happy. I'm stressed.
Yeah. Now the real work starts.
Yeah, because that's a trust. If you look at any one of the companies I built, you don't really see any publicity about it. Because it's such a risk. It's a big trust. You're taking someone else's money. Forget the VCs, right? The LPs that are behind the VCs, that's their money. Mm-hmm. And maybe, they can afford to lose it, but that's your responsibility. That's your trust. Remind it to myself first.
Has that always been, I guess, the cultural mindset where people are very much like, oh, it's free cash, or did it kind of become that?
No, from what I've seen, it's always been like, oh, we got cash. We're going to go like fly here. We're going to do this company retreat. We're going to do all these different things, all this, that. We're going to spend all this money here. We're going to buy this thing. They're not building, we're going to get this fit. Like people justify or think they're successful by having a grand office. It's a waste of money. Sometimes, and yes, there are opinions and things of people saying that it's good for culture, it's good for this, but what has created the culture? Are we doubling down and building real profitable businesses? And yes, some businesses are long tail IP businesses, right? We're investors in those companies. It's not going to make a lot of money right away because you need research, you need, things to happen in order to get to certain points. But the vast majority of things that people are doing can take its time, right? I guess what I'm trying to say but I'm not being very clear is what I don't like about the Silicon Valley or the tech culture, the VC culture, is that everyone's goal is to take an idea and just raise money. No one's goal is to take an idea and make money. I think there's two different mentalities. Like everyone takes money and wants to go raise a Series A and a Series B and a Series C. Are we not talking about we're going to get to 1 million, 5 million, 10 million in revenue and profit?
I think it's this is why it's so important to like make sure you're really aligned with your investor, right? Because once you start the rat race of raising money from the wrong person, it's like their objectives are very different.
Yeah.
If you raise someone from pre-seed or seed, like their objective and goal is to just, how can I sell it to the next person at a higher valuation as quickly as possible and move it to Series A? And that's what they're pressuring the founders to do.
Yeah.
And then a Series A investor, they're trying to move it to the Series B guy. And Ponzi scheme-ish, right? Now, I'm not saying it's what I said. It's not.
It just reminds like 2008, 2009, like housing crisis, like collateralized loans.
Yeah. It's like the VCs calls, hey man, we're investing in this company. You're going to invest too, right? And they pump up the valuation. They get it. Then they exit and everyone makes money. Like,
they criticize my NFTs, man.
Well, and then at the very end of it, I mean, if you want to go further, right? Like I think if you get to the very end of it, then you're going into the public markets, which there's a smaller percentage. So then that's when they look at IPO or if you're Chamath SPACs. So it's kind of like a sorry. But like all of that rooted is like in the investment thesis that the original investor has and how much influence they actually have on you as a founder. So it's kind of like if you say yes to those early folks and you don't know what you're getting into, you kind of signed up for stuff that you don't really know. What's your advice to some of those founders that are right at that beginning journey of making that type of decision?
Figure out how do you build the business without requiring money from others, because that will put you in such an uncomfortable position. You have no choice but to figure out how to make it work. I tell founders sometimes, I'm like, look, and they don't like me for it, and it's fine. I mean, I know founders that don't like me because of things I say, and again, I don't care. Why are you raising money? You have enough money. Why are you raising it? Why are you putting that burden on your head? I met a founder in Dallas, Pax and Beneficia.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Such a genuine dude, right? And, he says to me when I talk to him, like, I feel such a burden with the investors I have to pay back. But that's the right way to think about it.
100%.
You need to figure out how to avoid burdens in your life. Why are you inviting burdens in your life? To be cool? To get to this certain level? But uncomfortable situations produce diamonds. Mm-hmm. And founders are avoiding the uncomfortable and going for the fun and the sexy. And I don't like that. That's the reason why. And again, I'm the outlier here, but when funds can't return their funds to people, then everyone's going to be crying. And you see this with VCs now. VCs are diversifying their portfolios. You have funds that are applying to be investment advisors, invest in public markets. They're doing alternative investments. They're buying companies. They're buying SMBs because they're not returning their funds with tech investing.
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. And everyone laughs, oh, you're going to go invest in this thing. You're going to go do this like boring stuff. Honestly, my opinion of the market in general, forget tech for a second, people are ignoring, and I told you about this when we were walking in, I'm trying to build on the side this company called Burrow that essentially is a Soho house for families, right? And it's launching soon. Experience is going to be the next thing. People are going to be so engulfed in tech and so tied up in the digital world that they want physical experiences. That's going to be a thing. And then the people who are so used to building in the VC world are not going to know how to build in that experience world. Again, I could be wrong. That's my opinion, right? I wish that founders were to approach problems is not how's this cool thing that I'm building that I can probably sell. How am I actually going to make money? What's my business model? What's my EBITDA going to be? Mm-hmm. Think about those stuff early on, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and again, I'm a nobody, so that's just
I agree, but I'm also a nobody. But I think in general, like sometimes, like when I find people when they raise money, they just throw money at it depends how you are, right? I find that once you have available resources or capital, if you're just the type of person who just throws money at a problem, you're just more likely to waste that money. So there's less butterfly in it, honestly, going back to the earlier discussion we were having. I think sometimes it's kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. If your back's against the wall and you know how to like be creative with solutions, that's the best way to do it. And so like, I think there are times, and so do you clearly run a venture fund. There are times and moments where you need capital and money. I guess the question is like, when is the right moment in time? And also thinking very early on of like being conscious about how I can actually get dollars into my business. What about the concept about validating value creation and offsetting that with like getting an immediate cash flow? What's your thoughts about that? How do you like gauge that piece?
Define that a little bit more.
So like the reason why a startup might raise a lot of money and not ask for as much capital in the very beginning from their customers, potential customers, not ask for as much revenue from their potential customers as they're trying to define a market, right? Or they're going into a new industry, the user behavior may not be as much there, so they're incentivizing it with their own cost of customer acquisition. So they're basically saying, hey, this is something that's valuable that I'm creating as a service.
Yeah.
That dial of how valuable it is versus how much I should charge is sometimes the reason why someone might want to raise money. How do you see that? Do you agree with that? Do you think it's different?
I think they just don't want to have the uncomfortable conversation now. I think that maybe it's not valuable enough that says, hey, you're going to pay me $1,000 a month for this thing. I'm like, why am I paying you for that? Then that means it's not valuable yet. And I get what you're saying, that you need the customer to build value. Just go figure it out. Mm-hmm. We're like rushing for the plenty, but not taking the course to just be valuable ourselves, right? I don't know. My thoughts and my opinion is that it's just avoiding a very uncomfortable conversation. with the customer. And I think there are certain things, right? Companies that I work with now, you do have to do like what you call POCs, and you need to raise money to fund those POCs. I don't have to be clear, to be crystal clear, I don't have a problem with people raising investor funds. That's not my issue, or focusing on raising funds. I have an issue is that they view the funds as a success, not as a burden. And they're not focusing on what is the real success, which is revenue and profit. That's my problem. My problem is not raising funds. There are many even you open a restaurant, you have to get investor money. You have to raise funds. But that restaurant owner is going to be focused on making money. So every business requires some level of investment early on, someone to believe at the angel stage, someone to believe at the napkin phase. So to be clear, and I don't want anyone to get me wrong, is that I'm not against people raising money. I'm against the mentality of raising money is the end all be all and it is the success. Raising the money is a means to a success. It is not a success. It is a burden.
I want to ask this because I think this is where my journey kind of stopped, or my entrepreneur endeavor, which was an automated bubble tea vending machine. And I had built one, hacked it out of wood, what a lot of mechanical engineering firms were quoting me like $5 million for, like something that had all the rules and regulations, right?
Yeah.
I found 2 engineers in Georgia Tech, hacked it together, made it for a 10K, posted up like multiple universities in DFW, made a decent amount of like validation cash. Then it came the real question of if you need to go raise $5 million and make this legally, and then post it up.
So it doesn't blow up.
Exactly.
My TV blew up the other day.
Because it's milk, boba, a lot of complexities.
Yes.
And I had the contacts to raise that money. But the fear of, oh my goodness, this is everyone else's money and not my money. It completely...
But when you have that fear is when you should raise money. Because you know you're going to do good.
But that's my question, right? That fear completely stonewalled me to the point of immobilized. Like, I was completely immobilized. How do you... if you're speaking to a founder, me, how do you push past that? Like, actually, that is the indicator.
I think that as long as you know that you're doing everything in your power to make this thing work, you're not wronging the investor. You're not wronging yourself. You did everything in your ability to make this thing work. So the conversation that I would have in my head about it is that I'm scared as hell to raise these money because what if they lose their money? Okay, I guess I just got to make sure they don't raise their money. They lose their money. But if they do lose their money, I know that I gave it my everything. And I can go back to them with confidence, say, hey, I did everything I could. This just didn't work. And you can sleep at night.
And is it for investors to have those conversations? Are they usually understandable when you come in with all the cards of what you did? And
not if you take money from an uncle, but yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
They do. If they're investing, they know that they can lose that money. They know they can lose that money. And I think some founders take advantage of that. It's okay. It's other people's money. But when you have that fear, I think that's a good place to be in. That's what I wish more founders had. So all these all these tech conferences, all these things that are happening, I'm going to go build a startup. I'm going to go do this. That's cool. But I just want you to have a little fear. I want you to view the funds as a means to success, not the funds as a success. That's just the thing that the hill I will die on is that fundraising and taking VC money or investment money in general is not a success. It's a means to a success.
Well, Shastri, we could probably talk your ear off, and I would love to talk to you longer. But thank you so much for spending some time with us and sharing the knowledge that you have and your experience. So from selling homes at train stations to a nightclub to finding Islam to now being a managing partner of Friday Ventures and the co-founder and CEO of multiple ventures, Jazakallah khairan for joining us here, Shastri, at the Caravan Podcast.
No problem. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.